Welcome to Turning Moments into Movements, where each week we explore simple but powerful wellbeing tips to help you live a balanced and fulfilling life. My name's Leanne Ross, your host and the founder and coach of my business, Happyluia, and I will be taking you through today's 15 minutes of insight and inspiration. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. Love is in the air. This episode is going to be really surrounded by Valentine's Day because it's Valentine's, week when this is going to be released. But there's so much out there around positive relationships and how to get them. I'll definitely, do some sort of episodes in the future around positive relationships, but this is all about you. So I'm going to be diving in to the 5 ways to develop self-love and self-compassion. So really supporting that self-love, that self-compassion that you have to you. And if you have that, then you can then put it out to other people. But it has to start with you. It's that whole tradition that people talk about when people say that you need to love yourself before you love other people. Because, it is really about supporting you to flourish as a person and really feeling deserving of that love in return. So what I'm going to be diving into is what self-love and compassion actually is, the benefits of it, and then we'll be covering the 5 ways to develop it into your life. So what is self-love and self-compassion? So it's something that comes from within, and that's really powerful because we have internal influences, so that's where it comes from within, from ourselves, and we also have external. And external is the ones that typically you cannot control because they're coming from people. Human behavior we can't control, sometimes we can't predict. So if we have an understanding around how to support our internal, it's going to be really, really powerful to develop on, because if we reach that point where our self-love and self-compassion is completely unshakable, that's really going to propel you forward, and it's really going to instill that real power that we want to keep within us. So, self-compassion and self-love, so it's showing kindness to yourself, being empathic, managing feelings of shame and guilt that might come up, accepting who you are, being respectful towards yourself, wanting better for yourself as well. That's a real big one. Valuing who you are, knowing your worth, and having the confidence to be you. So that typically is what self-love and self-compassion is. The benefits of it are absolutely endless, but to name a few, to be more in tune with yourself. If you take a moment just now and think about someone that you love, whether it's a child, a parent, a sibling, a partner, a friend, think how well you know them. Love helps us to really reach that deeper level and helps us to want to know that person more and, want to have more of them in your life. So if you have that approach with yourself, you're going to be more in tune with you as a person. Similarly, you're going to be more in tune with the decisions that you're making in your life. You're going to be wanting to make the best types of decisions for you because you have so much self-love and self-compassion. When you think of, for example, this is a bit more surface level, but when you think of the time and energy it takes for you to purchase a gift for someone that you love, think about the details and all the considerations that you put in. Can you imagine having that every single day just for you? It's truly magical. So that's another one. It also reduces, and I have touched on this, it reduces the onus from the external influences that we have to the internal. And the reason why I'm doing this episode is I had a really negative experience in a relationship a number of years ago where he constantly told me I was not good enough for him. And at the ripe old age of 19, that was soul destroying. Absolutely soul destroying. And it has literally taken me years to reach a point where I friggin' know my worth. I know that I'm good enough. I know that I am lovable. And to have that within yourself is so powerful. It can really, really help to do so much things. And to have that belief in me now is just life changing. Like, it's so powerful. So that's the benefit. So we're now going to dive into the 5 ways to develop self-compassion. The first one is to reframe from negative talk to ourselves. So I feel I say this all the time. I'm going to do this in another episode. But what we find is if we maybe have a lower sense of self-love and self-compassion, typically we may have more self-limiting beliefs and negative thoughts about ourselves that can really affect us. And this is something that I cover within my coaching program, when we're going into mindset. Being able to change that negative narrative and negative dialogue that we have about ourselves is going to be really, really important to support and to develop that self-love that we have. And in order to do that, I always talk about identifying that kind of negative talk, exploring it a little bit more, like why is that negative thoughts, that I have, why are they coming up? The 2 key areas after that is to reframe negative thoughts, so to turn them, into more positive ones. Excuse me. But by doing so, we really need to increase our self-love and self-compassion, because what we don't want that surface level flitting between I'm not enough to I am enough. Like, we need to believe it. We need to really cement that self-belief, in. And to do that, self-compassion and self-love is really key. So diving a little bit deeper, so going into number 2, self-care. If you carve time out, I would recommend every day, but at least start once a week. If you carve out time for yourself to engage in self-care, so caring for yourself in some way, shape or form, that is really going to enhance your self-worth if you keep doing it. Your mind and body will start to prioritize that time that you've set aside just for yourself. It will recognize the compassion that you really want to instill within your schedule. So this is going to be a real game changer. If you start to prioritize self-care and making sure that you are routinely scheduling it in, making sure that you're staying committed to it, your self-compassion and self-love will inevitably increase, because what you're telling yourself by doing this all the time is, I am worthy, I'm deserving of this. So that would be my step number 2. Step number 3 is being boundaried. Now, I have done an episode on being boundaried and how to do this, so make sure you check that out. But ultimately, being boundaried is really important because, typically I am a recovering people pleaser, and saying yes to so many things led to me just saying no to myself. And ultimately, that's what was happening. And, and long term, that's what led to me becoming burnt out, stressed, miserable, having to give up my whole career, my whole personal life, because I just couldn't cope with that type of pattern of behaviour that I kept engaging in. So being boundaried is going to really help you to start saying no to the things that no longer serve you, that aren't necessary, that aren't going to support you, and saying yes to yourself. Now, inevitably, we will have to say yes to some things, but really just checking in with you around what you're saying yes to others and then what you're saying yes to for yourself. So getting that balance right. A quick tip on how to do that is, before you say yes to someone else, reflect on how it's going to impact you. And that's a really good quick tip to jump into. So it could be that, you've had a really busy week and then someone's reached out to you asking for you to go out for drinks and you just don't want to. But you feel, you should say yes. So checking in with yourself. Where should that boundary lie? What self-compassion and self-love can you give yourself in that moment? What will happen if you say yes versus what will happen if you say no? And where does that self-love and self-compassion lie? How does it get affected? When you're reflecting on being boundaried. The fourth one is mindfulness. So mindfulness is a really great technique. In effect, it is being present. It's really zoning in on where you are right now, paying attention to how you're feeling, what you're doing, how you're presenting, how you're feeling about yourself, recognizing if there's a lack of self-love and self-compassion there. There was a really great exercise I did the other day where I turned off my music when I was getting ready in the morning. I usually listen to some sort of thing on my phone. I turned that off and just was quiet. And I noticed when I was getting dressed, my mind was racing and I was quite critical around how I was looking that specific day. So that helped me to really reflect that my own self-love and self-compassion was lower than what I wanted to be. And I'm a coach that coaches people how to do this. So it was a really useful exercise for me to really reflect on how I need to do a bit of work to increase that, for that specific week. So engaging in mindfulness practice, maybe just sitting down for a couple minutes, just to journal, just to engage in a bit of meditation, to engage in a bit of self-reflection. That can really help us to recognise what's going on for us and then plan how to increase that self-love and self-compassion. The last one I wanted to speak about was, to seek out support. It can be challenging. Seeking out support can be really vulnerable. It can make you feel really vulnerable. And it's something I shied away from for quite a long time. But as someone who has now had counselling, therapy, coaching, all of the good stuff, I have so much more self-worth because I have invested in myself, and that is a game changer. Investing in yourself and reaching out for that specialised support is so empowering, and it will help your self-compassion and self-love in so many different ways if you find the right person for you. I'm just going to leave that there because I don't want this to come across sort of like I'm pitching, but just bear it in mind. If you're struggling with self-love, self-compassion, reach out for that support because you are so worth it. If you want to chat about this further, I will make sure that I put my details in the show notes. I can't wait to talk to you all next week. Have an amazing Valentine's Day and really work on that self-love and self-compassion for not only the 14th of February, but for the rest of your life. Take care, and I will speak to you all next week. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Turning Moments into Movements. Why not check out coaching opportunities with me so you can really begin to enhance your moments into huge movements and begin to live the life you never thought possible. Details are in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, leave a review and share this episode. Remember to also follow me on social media platforms through my handle Happyluya, where you will receive additional daily content.
And finally, make sure you join us next week for more tips on how you can turn your small moments into life-changing movements.